behind. In fact, I had a man this summer who was diagnosed with cancer, and his sister rang me and said, Michael wants to come in for a day. This was in summertime, and I don't teach in summertime. And I said, why? I said, can he not wait until September? And she said to me, he hasn't got time. And it's on his bucket list. He wants to come to your room and paint with his granddaughter of 9. So in the summer, Michael arrived at the gateway without a paintbrush, without a canvas, but a most beautiful little granddaughter. So I turned to Michael, who was dying, and I said to him, do you think I'm going to talk about your health in the afternoon? And I handed him a canvas, and I handed him some brushes, and I said, you're going to paint. And he painted for the afternoon. That was his last painting, but he painted beside his grandchild, and that was on his bucket list to do. That's what my studio and my painting was about. When I opened my studio in town with the view to teaching, I called it the Art for Pleasure Centre. And the reason I gave it that title was I didn't want people to be put off going to art classes, because a lot of people feel, I can't paint, I can't draw. And I'm a great believer there's an artist in everybody. And above all else, I wanted people to be able to look at things differently and see things, see the beauty in the sky, look at a ditch and find a flower and have a look at it. And I wanted to keep it simple. And that's where I succeeded, I feel.
Brilliant.
I love poppies. I love the colour red. And when you walk into a house, red is very welcoming, as you can see the one over there. It gives you a warmth. So I painted, and when I was short of money, I always painted poppies, because they were bound to sell. I had one lady who kept buying my paintings. It's a lovely story. They were in a gallery downtown called Thomas Street Framers. And the man who owns it said to me, she's coming in every week to pay €20, but she won't take the painting until it's paid for. And this was going on for years. And I said, that's fine with me. She obviously likes my work. And I met one day I went down and I met the lady. She was a little lady from County Limerick, a country woman, very simple, who got the bus into town every Saturday and went in with her €20 until she paid for the painting. And I thought that was the greatest compliment I got of all the paintings I've sold. People ask you how long, and people have this silly concept. This is very important. That would only have taken her an hour to paint. That's not so. You can't judge painting on the amount of time it takes, the actual physical part, like for songwriting, as I say, writing it down doesn't. It's the time it circles in your brain. Jackie Yates, the famous Irish painter, painted a marvellous painting of the Liffey Spin. Do you know how long it took him to paint it? Half an hour. But he had been walking around Dublin observing and observing and observing before he actually put it in canvas. So I separated from my husband in 1992, and I had to earn a living quickly. So I said, I have a good pair of hands. My mother always told me I would never be short of money when I had a good pair of hands. And I had a very good friend called Roisin, who encouraged me and found me a studio in town and said, you're going to teach. And she said, I'm going to sit in the classes to make sure you do it right. So that's how I started teaching. And I had no money starting off, so I borrowed everybody's garden furniture and filled the room with garden furniture. It was like the Red Rose Cafe, and all the lovely people students came to me, and I haven't looked back. And that was 28 years ago. I came to Limerick in 1953, and I've never left Limerick. All my family went back to Dublin, but I stayed because I love Limerick. I was very happy here. I went to school in Limerick up to Laurel Hill, where I started my hockey. And I wasn't a great student. I used to sit looking out the window waiting for 3 o'clock to get down to the hockey pitch. I bought my first hockey stick second hand for 10 shillings. Now that's old money. And I played away. Oh, I loved sport. I played in goals as a goalkeeper. And that's usually left to the fattest person in the school. I didn't see it that way. I saw it as having an eye and quick reflexes. And my brothers were all into football, and I used to be out with them. So I started playing with Lansdowne, which is a hockey team in Limerick. Unfortunately, they had no pitch, and they didn't look as if they were going to get one, and I was ambitious. So I joined Catholic Institute, and I played the rest. I got my first cap for Ireland with representing Catholic Institute in the Irish team. And I played my first game against Wales, and I was terrified. I was only 19. And we had to pay everything ourselves and do everything like they do nowadays. The Irish team that got into the World Cup final, this year. No, I had a wonderful sporting career because I made some great friends. And my greatest joy in hockey was playing for Munster, travelling to Belfast and beating Ulster after 36 years. There were tears in everybody's eyes. We hadn't beaten them in 36 years. And I had the great pleasure of being on that team. We were lost for a week. We didn't go home. So, it's a difficult life. So I chose to teach, as I told you, and because I have to put bread on the table, which is practical. I can't be a dreamer. Although, if anybody asks me what I do for a living, I dream for a living.